So the Chiefs made some pretty smart, calculated moves in free agency so far, including one of my favorite additions today, but the sad part of doing business is that sometimes you have to lose great players in the process. So I've got to talk about the recent losses and additions, how the Chiefs look as far as the salary cap is concerned, and more. But first, how about those? All right, well, there's a lot to talk about, but let me briefly catch you up on the last few days. The Chiefs traded Joe Thuney to the Chicago Bears in exchange for a 2026 fourth-round pick in a bit of a shocker, then re-signed Hollywood Brown to a one-year deal worth up to $11 million, with that deal becoming official today. He was in the building and signed his contract, and the Chiefs posted that on social media. Next, Trey Smith signed his franchise tag, which means his cap hit for right now is $23.4 million. Yet reportedly, VIDS and company still want to work out a long-term deal with him, and hopefully that does happen here very soon. Next, KC reached a 3-year, $45 million deal featuring $30 million guaranteed with linebacker Nick Fulton shoring up a key piece of their defense for years to come. This all happened over the weekend. Then on Monday, so yesterday, the start of free agency frenzy, they signed two former 49ers. The first was offensive tackle Jalen Moore on a 2-year, $30 million deal that includes $22 million guaranteed. There is an out after 2025 in theory, but it would still be around $11 million in dead money to move on from him. So while it is possible and was floated around as potentially a one-year deal yesterday when he signed, moving on from him next season or after next season would hurt quite a bit. Worst case, if he doesn't pan out, he's a backup or the right tackle, maybe, as you could move on from Jawan Taylor's contract next year. Either way, KC is clearly banking on Moore's potential as a starter because paying $15 million a year for a backup is pretty insane. Now, while Jalen Moore has only started 12 games in his career, he's improved every year, learned from one of the best left tackles in the NFL, Trent Williams, for 4 of those years, and will be a better protector for Mahomes than anybody else last season by quite a bit. The best news about him, he rarely ever suffers a quick loss, which is what absolutely killed KC last year on multiple plays, in multiple games, from multiple different left tackles. Seth Keysor, who I've had on the channel multiple times and has an incredible Substack. Link to that is in the description down below. Sub to it, it's worth it. But he dove into the film from Jalen Moore, giving his thoughts about it after watching all 5 games that he started in 2024. And Seth said Moore was markedly better than Donovan Smith, DJ Humphries, and Wanya Morris. Moore was more consistent than 2023 Donovan Smith in that he did not have as quick of losses when he did lose. He was also a better run blocker than Smith, though Wanya Morris may have the edge on him in that department. But the Chiefs are a pass-first offense. So yeah, Moore is definitely an upgrade, and while he may not have the highest ceiling in the world based on his traits, he has a higher floor than any tackle the Chiefs have had on the left side for the last couple of years, and I'm going to take that all day, every day. I don't know why I said that. I'm really tired. Anyway, after that signing, the Chiefs then added another former 49er in running back Elijah Mitchell, signing him to a 1-year deal worth up to $3.5 million. He was one of the fastest running backs in his draft class, running a 4.38 at the combine. The only problem is he's had a very lengthy injury history in his 4-year career so far, playing at most 11 games in a season, and he also missed all of last year with a serious hamstring injury. However, the Mitchell signing gives me Jerick McKinnon vibes. McKinnon actually didn't play 2 seasons in a row due to back-to-back season-ending knee injuries, so he missed all of the 2018 and 2019 season. He then played his last year with the 49ers in 2020, coming over to KC after that at the age of 29 years old, and had a few solid seasons with KC and stayed pretty healthy for the most part. Well, Elijah Mitchell has the chance to have a solid year in Kansas City after missing all of last year, and he's obviously a couple years younger than McKinnon was when he arrived. I say all that to say this: while a player can struggle to stay healthy in previous seasons, that doesn't mean he can't be productive ever again. So let's give him a chance, see how it goes, especially considering how cheap his contract is. Obviously, the Chiefs should not be done adding to the running back room, whether it's signing a veteran like Kareem Hunt and or drafting a running back in the upcoming draft. Has a very deep running back class, so please do it, Veach. Now, the Chiefs weren't done adding to the roster. They made a couple moves last night, and they made a couple more moves today. So I've got to talk about that, one of my favorite players sadly moving on, and more. But first, I got to tell you about the delicious sponsor of today's video, Good Chop. They offer fully customizable boxes of high-quality meat and seafood that's vacuum sealed and flash frozen at peak freshness, then deliver it to your door on your schedule. This allows you to save both time and money, and with over 100 cuts to choose from, there's something for everyone. Good quality protein has always been the main source of every meal for me and my fam, so that's why we've been enjoying Good Chop so much for well over a year now. This go round, the Gulf shrimp and ribeye steaks were a fantastic dinner combo, the ground beef made some fire nachos, and as always, the thick cut bacon was a major win with both of my daughters. Honestly, whatever they send, we happily cook it up and devour it. On top of that, Good Chop believes in their quality so much that they offer a 100% money back guarantee, so either love Good Chop or get your money back. I also love the fact that Good Chop sources its meat and seafood from American farms and fisheries, so to support local family farms and independent ranchers in the US as well as my channel, go to goodchop.com/YouTube and use code HBTC130 or click the link in the description down below to get $130 off across your first 4 boxes today. Again, that's goodchop.com/YouTube and use code HBTC130 to get $130 off across your first 4 boxes. Alright, so late on Monday evening after KC added their left tackle and a running back, they re-signed linebacker Cole Christensen and long snapper James Winchester to 1-year deals. Christensen is primarily a special teamer, but also a depth piece on defense. Meanwhile, James Winchester is the long snapper and has been for 11 years. Well, 10 years with the Chiefs, back for season number 11 now. He's also the second oldest player on the team outside of Travis Kelce, so I'm glad to see him back. But I'm also sad to see some others leave. So while all this happened on Monday, multiple free agents that were with the Chiefs previously also moved on, signing elsewhere. Whether that was their choice, the Chiefs just opting to move on, or maybe a mutual decision, they will all be missed in their own way. Wide receiver Justin Watson signed a 1-year deal with the Houston Texans, which makes sense to have him around as a quality depth piece considering Tank Dell had a season-ending knee injury last year and Stephon Diggs is a free agent. Then running back Samaje Perine signed a 2-year deal with the Bengals, returning to his former team. Defensive tackle Turk Wharton then got a massive 3-year deal worth $54 million, 30 of that guaranteed, which is absolutely incredible for him. He went from an undrafted free agent to a 2-time Super Bowl champion, had a breakout year in 2024, and then got life-changing money from the Panthers, and you really do love to see it. And all that brings us to Tuesday afternoon, just before noon rather, when the Chiefs made one of my favorite moves so far in free agency. They signed cornerback Christian Fulton to a 2-year, $20 million deal with $15 million of that guaranteed. This definitely doesn't break the bank, elevates the floor of the room, and also has a few other benefits that I'll get into here in a moment. But first, Fulton is only 26, a former second-round pick out of LSU, and he played 4 years with the Titans and is coming off a career year with his 1 year with the LA Chargers. Per PFF, he had a career-high overall grade and coverage grade for what that's worth, though he did give up a career-high 6 touchdowns and was flagged 9 times, the most of his career. For comparison's sake, though, Trent McDuffie also gave up 6 touchdowns and was flagged 11 times. So sometimes it's just the nature of being an aggressive corner. You are going to draw flags. It is what it is, so I'm not really concerned about that. And I'm also encouraged to see Fulton have a relatively healthy year in 2024 after missing 23 games through 4 years with the Titans. So injury history, a bit of a concern, but he's coming off of a quality year, so you do love to see that. And according to Justin Reid, who covers the Chargers for a living, he said Fulton played really well in the first half of the season, then declined a bit, making some dumb coverage mistakes. So he's a bit of an up and down player last year that you shouldn't expect to be a perfect cornerback 2 on the roster, but he's a good pickup for the Chiefs because, quote, in a good system, he can play well. Well, thank God the Chiefs not only have a good system, albeit complex, but one of the best defensive backs coaches in the entire league. Dave Merritt is awesome in getting the most out of his players and helping them develop year after year. Now, the signing of Christian Fulton helps the Chiefs defense in a couple of ways. Cornerback was a sneaky need for KC, and one I hope they at least address in the upcoming draft, but now they can double dip. You sign Fulton in free agency and get a guy, maybe even a late round guy in the draft. If you get a guy in the draft, he'll be under contract for years, and then Fulton also is under contract through 2026. Well, that's helpful because there's a lot of players in the secondary on the last year of their contract. Safety Brian Cook, cornerbacks Najee Johnson, Joshua Williams, and Jalen Watson are all set to be free agents in 2026. So Fulton signing for 2 years means security of at least he and McDuffie remaining after this season. McDuffie, you could pick up his 5th-year option or get this man extended ASAP because some cornerbacks are getting paid a lot of money lately, only driving up McDuffie's price. Then this is a big one. If I asked you what the weakness of the Chiefs defense is or was last season or last couple of seasons, most of you would immediately shout the middle of the field. Well, you'd be right. Christian Fulton, though, can help with that. Here's how. He's an outside corner through and through, and that means on key downs and in certain packages, Trent McDuffie could kick back inside to the slot, where he excelled in his second year in the league and was also voted first-team All-Pro as a slot corner. No offense to safety Chamari Connor, but the slot is not his strong suit, and he got beat a bunch last year, so this would allow Chamari to play more naturally where he fits at safety and give a big upgrade inside when McDuffie slides in. On top of that, Fulton is also a valuable depth piece, because what happens if injuries hit the room like they did last year with Jalen Watson, who missed most of the season? Well, now you have another solid player out there in the rotation. This is a big win and is yet another perfect example of the Chiefs filling needs along the roster in creative, semi-cost-effective ways that won't force them to unnecessarily reach for one position group in particular in the draft. I will say, though, the Chiefs do need to add a defensive tackle in free agency, at least one, and also one in a deep defensive tackle draft class, because Chris Jones is one of the only defensive tackles currently on the roster, so I anticipate that to happen sooner rather than later. But the Chiefs also need to free up cap space sooner rather than later, because by the end of the business day tomorrow, the start of the new league year, every NFL team must be under the salary cap or cap compliant. Well, the Chiefs are definitely over the cap right now, actually dead last according to SpotTrack, around negative $17 million. So $17 million over the cap. Well, they can easily get cap compliant if they get a long-term deal done with Trey Smith, so please let that happen. They can also restructure Mahomes' contract, but if Trey Smith doesn't get his long-term deal done by then, you can mess with other contracts via restructures if you have to. Chris Jones, Jawan Taylor, Creed Humphrey, even Travis Kelce aren't out of the equation completely, but not all of those are preferred. And before I get to some big news of a player moving on, the Chiefs did make a small move late this afternoon by signing veteran tight end Robert Tonyan to the roster. He was added to the practice squad back in December, so if his name sounds familiar, that's why. But his contract was terminated. His practice squad contract was terminated a few weeks later, early in January. But tight end depth is never a bad thing to have, and so we shall see if the 8-year vet heading into year 9 fights his way onto the 53-man roster or ends up on the Chiefs practice squad roughly 4-5 months from now. He did have a nice 2020 season with the Packers. As a reminder, he caught 52 passes for 586 yards and 11 touchdowns, so he definitely can contribute if called upon, that's for sure. So while Robert Tonyan is back, the wide receiver that the Chiefs traded for in the middle of the season is gone. He's going to find himself with the Baltimore Ravens. DeAndre Hopkins signing a 1-year deal worth up to $6 million. And that's going to be another weapon for Lamar Jackson. They've kind of tried to do this with wide receivers here and there. Odell Beckham Jr., then last year there was Deontay Johnson. Well, this year, one of these guys is going to be DeAndre Hopkins. And while he didn't do a ton outside of his first few weeks in KC, I loved the Chiefs going to get him for a 5th-round pick, and they might even get a comp pick back for him next year. We'll see how that all plays out. But I love the move for D-Hop. It didn't end up really working out or panning out at the end of the season for the Chiefs, but he now finds himself on a 1-year deal with the Baltimore Ravens. And then a key piece of the Chiefs defense the last few years is sadly moving on. And while I figured it was happening because of the Christian Fulton move, and then they also have a dog of a safety in Jaden Hicks that they drafted last year, it still makes me sad and also makes me wonder if we live in a literal simulation. Here's why. Safety Justin Reid is moving on, and he's signing a 3-year, $31.5 million deal with the New Orleans Saints. He gets $22.5 million guaranteed. And honestly, I couldn't be happier for him, but here's why that's so crazy. Tyrann Mathieu, the Chiefs' former safety that was here for years, he signed a similar deal with the Saints back in 2022 when his deal was up with the Chiefs, and it was almost identical. 3 years, $33 million, and both Tyrann Mathieu and Justin Reid are from Louisiana. Crazier yet, Tyrann Mathieu agreed to rework his deal today to keep him in New Orleans, so both of these guys are going to be playing together, which brings them back to Justin Reid's rookie year. In 2018, they both played for the Texans, and now are teammates once again after both playing for the Chiefs in different time periods, which is pretty crazy, but obviously I could not be happier to see Justin Reid get another deal. He will definitely be missed in KC, and that obviously means the aforementioned Jaden Hicks, Chamari Connor, and Brian Cook are most likely the safety room for 2025, and Jaden Hicks will have some pretty big shoes to fill. I mean, I believe he can do it though, as he was arguably the best safety in last year's draft class. But hey, what do you guys think of the Chiefs secondary now that Justin Reid is officially gone and Christian Fulton is now added into the mix? Let me know if you're excited, concerned, a little bit of both, or what. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?